Here on the Colour of Country Life, Flow FM. Good to be catching up again with Helen Dalton, the member for Murray. How are you going, Helen?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, Helen. I wonder with floodplain harvesting whether it feels a bit like this.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
We've got a Groundhog Day for the New South Wales Government, another disallowance. And what's been your hand in all of this?
Well, of course, I go around and speak to the members and trying to explain to them what that all means with us out in the western areas of the state. So I did have a disallowance motion which I put forward in the lower house. And of course, I didn't have the numbers and I knew that. But it gave me a chance to really talk to the members of Parliament, give them an understanding of what's doing, an awareness. And I knew that we had the fallback position of the disallowance in the upper house, which we were successful with last week.
Now, this was, I say it's Groundhog Day, it's the fourth disallowance of the floodplain harvesting. Is the government trying to do exactly the same thing each time, or is it trying to change tack?
Oh, it's basically the same. Trying to think of ways of really over-allocating or capturing more water on farms rather than letting that water go through to where it should be, which is into the Darling. So, they have varied it a little bit, but I think the fourth time sends a very clear message that not to put these sneaky regulations in, which is quite... it's been fairly annoying, really. And what we do want them to do is come and sit around the table and let's talk about it and let's have water take within the basin law.
Yeah, and this is one that we've talked about with you on Flow for some years now, where we were coming out of a drought cycle and now we've got so much water they don't know what to do with across parts of northern New South Wales. But this floodplain harvesting is essentially holding back water that would otherwise come down the river. Your cross-border colleague and fellow independent, Ali Cupper, claims that this 450 gigalitres that is being chased in the Murray-Darling Basin plan could almost be satisfied by doing stronger regulation of floodplain harvesting. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think there are ways. I mean, obviously, Tanya Plebiscik she's not going to let go of this 450, which is a shame. We've been pushing for a meeting, but there are other ways that the 450 could, be taken and without impacting on the Darling River and irrigators in the Southern Connected System.
So that 450 gigalitres, if, as you say, Labor and their colleagues say, like the South Australian Labor Government, insist on that getting down to South Australia, even in this wetter cycle we're having at the moment, that could be fully satisfied by restricting more floodplain harvesting? There's a mention of a 1995 cap, for instance.
Well, I think so. We'd have to look at that, but there are other solutions as well. So if we could just possibly get a meeting with Tanya Plebiscik and tease out some of the solutions without impacting on communities and the environment and obviously irrigators as well, that would be good. But so far, I've written to her a number of times and requested a meeting, and I've written again this week. So I don't really know why she's not wanting to meet with me, given that I have a lot of knowledge with water and I was elected on the platform of water. You would think that she would be trying to at least, liaise with me and see what's going on and how we can find these solutions.
Well, and given your background and experience in the water area, Helen, the imminent concern that's been raised with us by the New South Wales Farmer spokesperson Louise Burge, we spoke with her from Deniliquin recently. She says the Barmah Choke, the Millawa Forest, is saturated and that there's a risk to actual human lives and livestock as well from imminent flooding with human Dartmouth dams spilling. Do you agree with those concerns?
Absolutely, and I know Louise very well, and I know the impacts of flooding on her farm and around that area, and I've seen footage of her swimming out sheep, and when this was a man-made flood, it's always devastating. I suffer from flooding here as well on my property, and nothing to the extent of what Louise does, but we've had to. It is very traumatic at times, and often these events are man-made, and we need better management of the rivers.
Well, we're concerned here at the news desk because we're getting dismissiveness from the state government and as well as the federal government in engaging with these concerns Louise Burgess raised. I would have thought that given the history when it comes to poor management of dams and loss of property and life that resulted from it, governments would be wanting to urgently deal with that risk that the New South Wales farmers are raising.
You would think so, and I know I've tried to get a meeting with the New South Wales Water Minister, Kevin Anderson, as well, and he's not meeting with me, and he's not meeting with anyone, I believe. So it makes it very, very difficult for these ministers to do the right thing by communities around water. And if they're only meeting with a select few that are perhaps giving them political donations, then that's a very poor outcome for us, and it's wrong.
Well, Helen, thanks for checking in with us on this floodplain harvesting. I do feel like Groundhog Day might come again and the government will have another go and there'll be another disallowance. But there is a state election coming up, isn't there, in, March next year, where maybe the balance will change?
The 25th of March is going to be a big day, and you can almost see what's going on now in Parliament. We have only 10 sitting days left, and they're rushing legislation through to try and get what they want, but and they're not meeting with many people. They're just doing what they want at the moment. So it's going to be interesting, the 25th of March, to see what happens. But at the moment, what would be a great outcome for me would be to have a hung parliament. So it doesn't really matter who wins as long as I'm in there, I guess, and have some influence with what's going on. And I think that's the direction in which we're going. So I'm really looking forward to the 25th of March because I think it'll be a game changer for us in the seat of Murray.
Helen Dalton, Independent MP for Murray, thanks so much for joining us today on Flow.
Thank you so much, Ricky.